Thank you, sir. Now to recognize the gentleman from Louisiana, former sheriff, maybe still sheriff, the only member of law enforcement that sits on this panel. Mr. Higgins, you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was a captain in the sheriff's office, but I appreciate the promotion. Mr. Director, I appreciate your responsiveness to my personal outreaches to you in the months that we've looked into this. You have been accessible, and you helped me with some ballistics investigations that I was working on. You helped me personally, and over the course of the last several months, I've come to have a high degree of confidence that you are very focused on making the necessary adjustments to culture and policy and technology capabilities within the Secret Service in order to mitigate against threat at a heightened level as we move deeper into the 21st century. I think you have stepped into a difficult chair at a time of incredible challenge, and you've done so with quite courageously. And I say again, you've been very accessible. That's important to members of Congress, because when we feel like we're closed out from the executives that we are efforting to work with and to provide appropriate oversight, we don't appreciate that. So you're to be commended, I believe, good sir, for the character that you've shown in stepping into your chair at a difficult time and in the way you have interacted with Congress. So you stated that we are, quote, living in a state of heightened threat. I agree, and I would ask you to compare that to how we balance that with freedom as it relates to the Secret Service's particular mission of protecting protectees or VIPs. We do not expect nor want to live in a prison state. Some of my colleagues mentioned it's not completely safe. Let me say there's no such thing as completely safe. You have to mitigate against threat. And you mentioned 2 levels of failure. I'm going to ask you to address one of them, which I concur with. You mentioned the AGR building proximity and communications failures. So I'm going to shift to communications failures on J13 and ask you to address what you have done to respond to the failure to deliver local radios as provided by Butler County ESU, set aside for the Secret Service that were never retrieved. You had isolated assets on rooftops that had no direct radio communication other than the delay through their command post and their cell phones, but it would have been very easy for them to have a local radio up on a roof. That didn't happen. That cost seconds and impacted the results of the entire day. So what have you done to address that?
So we've implemented a PACE, primary, alternate, contingency, and emergency, and also making sure that, for example, the snipers, our counter snipers and local snipers are actually co-located. So that's to cut down on that, to make sure that they are standing next to each other so that there is clarity of communication between them. And then also, if exchanging radios and making sure that we have their radio and can hear what they say in clear communications.
Yes, sir. So sharing radios was part of your pre-mission plan for Butler on J13. So the failure to execute the pre-mission plan is impacted us here. You actually had the planning in place, but it wasn't executed on that day. We would see that. A reasonable man would see that as a failure of on-site leadership to to follow through with the agreed-to plan. How are you addressing that within the culture and the policies of the Secret Service to make certain that something like that does not happen again? And I'll yield the remainder of my time for your answer.
Sure. So the Office of Protective Operations and our Office of Field Operations now, that is something that they ensure that we have that either shared incident command posts, and then where we have partners with Special Operations Division entities that are supporting us, that there is somebody with us, and we either have their radio or they are with us, and we are testing those communications in advance to make sure that they are rock solid.
Thank you for your clarification on that very important topic of radio communications. Good sir, appreciate you being here. I yield, Mr. Chairman.